What is going on, people? This is your host, Laner, and I hope you can hear it in my voice because I am very excited. What a week of football. Week 6 delivered in a massive way. We're about halfway through the season for a lot of teams. Most teams still playing just 5 games, but who would have called it? The biggest upset of the year happened this week to the poor old Penn State Nittany Lions. This was the most unlikeliest of unlikely losses. We're talking about a team coming off of hosting Gameday, a tight overtime thriller at home, a whiteout, losing to one of the best teams in the country. This was supposed to be the get right game. The lowly UCLA Bruins, who are not just winless to this point, but haven't led for a single moment of the season so far. 0-4 and haven't held a lead at any point this season. They fired their coach. They installed a new play caller 2 days before game day. He only had 2 days to install his plan for the game, but the UCLA Bruins did it. I tried to tell you last week. I did not try to tell you that this upset would happen, but I did tell you Nico Iamaleava is the better quarterback in this matchup. The truth has come out about Drew Aller. He's simply not a good college football quarterback. I really wonder if you replaced him with a lot of other quarterbacks around the country right now, would Penn State be a more successful team? It's a very strange thing, though, because I'm not even putting this loss on Drew Aller. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if I'm putting this loss on James Franklin. We've heard all the noise. We've heard all the noise. You're going to keep hearing all the noise. It's unavoidable. People are trying to throw Sark in that conversation now. It's not even close. He's got less of a track record, and he's got more ranked wins, more top 10 wins than James Franklin. It's not even close. The verdict is still out on Sark. Yeah, it's not great so far, but it's not even close compared to what Franklin has done. Penn State's the first top 10 team to lose to an 0-4 or worse opponent in 40 years. Brutal. And here's the big problem. They allowed 42 points to UCLA. 42 points to a team that's play caller had 2 days of practice to install his plan. And by the way, you've got the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country, Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles was the defensive coordinator of the Ohio State national champion Buckeyes last year, and he left to go to in-conference rival Penn State to take an absolute bag. Supposed to be the best coordinator in the country. Turns out, Ohio State's not missing him. They held Texas to 7 points. Ohio State has allowed barely any scores this year. As a matter of fact, they've allowed less points on the season total than Penn State did in this single game to UCLA. Take that in for a second. They're doing just fine. And big props to Matt Patricia out there, the DC, because there was a lot of noise about, well, can he do it? Is this the right hire? Has Ryan Day gone off the rails? A lot of criticism for a team that just won the national championship. Interesting how this is playing out so far. Well, folks, I know that was a hard intro, but we got a great episode for you today. We're going to talk more about this UCLA Penn State situation. Where does Penn State go from here? And I don't want to hear about the travel. I don't want to hear about the travel because Oregon just traveled the same exact thing, same exact situation. And by the way, they went against time. So they went west to east and lost time. You went east to west and gained time. So I don't want to hear about the travel excuse. Oregon did that and came in your house on what's supposed to be the toughest environment in all of college football on a whiteout, and they handed it to you. Yeah, it went to overtime. You showed a little life late, but they handed it to you. Oregon dominated that game for the most part. Good to see Penn State show fight at the end, but there's no excuse for this one. That's what the Big Ten signed up for when they took on these West Coast teams. That's part of it. Don't allow that to be an excuse because James Franklin knew for the last 2 years this game is on his schedule. Hey, an at USC on his schedule. Probably next year, maybe an at Washington or an at Oregon on the schedule. That's what you signed up for. That's what your conference is now. So there can't be any excuses about the travel. I'm not here for that. James Franklin, tough days at Penn State. Let's move on to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is the top of the class. This was one of those sneaky games that Reagan and I tried to warn you about last episode. By the way, Reagan been phenomenal on the pod this year. Always a pleasure to have him or Johnny or Howie. They've been great guests this year. Always fun to do those episodes with those guys. Really appreciate them coming on. And by the way, I'm wearing the hat right now. Look at this duck buck hat, sick logo in the middle, cream colored hat, darker bill with the rope. Absolutely love it. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening in, duckbuckco.com, the place to go to get your new hats. The fall drop sold out so quickly, they had to restock it, and they did. Plus, they dropped 2 new hats last Friday. Go ahead and go to duckbuckco.com, use code LCFP. That'll get you 15% off your entire order, and they'll know we sent you. We appreciate Duckbuck partnering with us, powering the pod all year. In the Big 12, Texas Tech has been phenomenal. They're the top of the class. This was one of those games where Reagan brought up a name, Connor Wigman, starting quarterback at Houston. Undefeated Houston, outside the top 25. Undefeated Texas Tech, number 11 in the country. So it looks like when you look at the game, when you look at those little numbers, or lack thereof, in front of the team's name, you go, oh, wow, there's a big gap here between these two programs. Well, wouldn't say so. Houston's got a good ball club. It's still early in the year. We don't know exactly who they are. But just because they don't have a number 24 next to him doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game. I mean, this is a very good matchup. 2 undefeated teams. Texas Tech looks like the team to beat right now. Doesn't matter what quarterback. Baron Morton was out for a couple weeks. He's back this week. Man, no quarterback country there. They just got 2 good ones. And that's a blessing to have because depth is a premium in college football right now. So you got to be feeling really good if you're Texas Tech, knowing we got 2 really good quarterbacks. If Baron Morton goes down again, we got another guy. The defense is unbelievable. The front 7 is ridiculous. They're stopping the run. They're stifling quarterbacks, getting pressure on them. Texas Tech looking like the top of the class in the Big 12. There's a huge game in the Big 12 this week. Potentially, winner of this game maybe going to go up against Texas Tech for the Big 12 championship. Because you have undefeated Arizona State in conference play. Yeah, they dropped one at Mississippi State out of conference. But they've already got wins over TCU and Baylor. Those are 2 quality wins in the conference. And they're going up against one loss in the conference, Utah, who Texas Tech beat earlier this year in their place. So Texas Tech went on the road and beat Utah. That was a big game. Dominated on defense. Quarterback went out. Backup stepped up. Played phenomenal. This is a huge game. Huge game. So winner of Utah, Arizona State really positioning themselves to make a run in the Big 12. Obviously, Arizona State, defending champs, would really be fun to see what they can do. Also, in the Big 12, Iowa State dropped a big one at Cincinnati. Cincinnati with a huge win. Not much defense in this game. 38-30 final. Cincinnati, one of those sleeper teams, kind of like Houston. Hey, they're outside the top 25. Road game for Iowa State. Not much defense there. I know that Coach Matt Campbell's going to look to make some adjustments because, quarterback Rocco Beck made some great throws to keep him in that game. Played very well, played from behind, kept him in it, but the defense is going to need to step up. Looking at the athleticism of Iowa State is a little bit of a concern for me. At the linebacker position, on the edge, are they going to be able to keep up with some of these teams with just a little bit more of an athletic profile? You think about some of these programs that have some athletes out wide, and some guys are going to be pushing and spreading the field. That's one of the things that concerns me about Iowa State, and I think that's one of the things that Cincinnati did a good job taking advantage of. How about we go over to the SEC real quick? Bama got their revenge. And Nick Saban said it best on College Game Day, which, by the way, College Game Day in Tuscaloosa. I told you I wish it would have been in Tallahassee for Miami, Florida State, but this was a huge game. Undefeated Vanderbilt playing at Bryant-Denny Stadium against Bama. And Nick Saban turned around to the crowd and said, revenge shouldn't be a factor in this one, but it is today. And he was exactly right. Josh Pate reported on his podcast that after the Georgia win, while Bama players were still in the locker room in Athens, they were already talking about Vanderbilt. That's a team that has flipped a switch the last 2 weeks. And I told you last week, they're still in prove-it mode to me. I knew they'd get up for Georgia. We knew they'd show their best. Whether they won or lost, we knew the game plan would be there. We'd see some trickery, some great play calling. We'd see an inspired effort from the players. We knew they'd get up for the big one, but could they also get up consistently? Because right now, everybody's talking about the gauntlet that South Carolina has coming up, which it is. We'll talk about that later. But right now, Alabama is in the middle of a 5 game stretch. 4 of those teams ranked right now. They already knocked off Georgia and Vanderbilt. This week, they travel to undefeated number 14 Missouri. They'll also have to play against number 12 Tennessee at home the following week, and they'll close with a road trip to South Carolina. Now, that's a serious 5 game stretch with no byes. Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, and South Carolina. 4 of those 5 teams currently ranked in the top 25. Absolute gauntlet. And we'll see what they can do, because that's not going to be easy to navigate. Alabama already with 1 loss on the year to Florida State to start the year. Didn't put themselves in a good position to start off, but still undefeated in SEC play. I'll tell you what I took away from this game: the Bama run game. Jam Miller rushed for over 100 yards, about a $130, and that was huge. We have not seen that out of Alabama in a very long time. They've been very creative. They've been finding ways to create long, sustained drives through the air, through some screenplays, just extremely creative. All the credit in the world to Ryan Grubb for doing that, but to actually see the run game get going was a big deal. Huge. The turnovers were big. Early turnover by Ty Simpson, his first of the season, which is just remarkable that he went into this game with no turnovers. One of the best quarterbacks in the country right now. I have him in my list at number 3. If you didn't listen to last episode, go back, listen to the end of the episode. I gave you my top 5 quarterbacks in college football right now. Some of those on the list might surprise you. Shout out to Dante Moore at Oregon. He was my number 2. Ty Simpson at number 3. Hey, listen to that episode. Go back and check it out to get my full top 5 quarterbacks in the country as of last week. Not much would change in there either, by the way, after this week. But the early turnover from Ty Simpson, you just wonder, when the guy's a first-year starter and he's been rolling and throwing the ball well and has no turnovers on the year, does that first turnover change something? Does something, between the ears up there get changed? Does he get a little, nervous? Does he start to take a step back, not be as decisive and, making great decisions? No, he only got better as the game went on. That didn't rattle him one bit. He went on to throw for 340 yards on top of the $130 that Jam Miller had on the ground. The offense went nuts on Vanderbilt. And on defense, Alabama with the huge interception by Keon Sabb and a big turnover by Justin Jefferson. Proctor got the ball again. That's going to be the story on social media. Love the creativity once again. How about in the swamp? How about we go over to the swamp? Big shout out to Reagan Hage last week. Came on the pod and made a bold call that the Florida Gators would find a way to save Billy Napier's job again and beat the Texas Longhorns. And boy, did they. Horns down in the swamp. The Gators were fired up. We speculated on the pod. We had Howie and Reagan on 2 weeks ago. After they lost a third game, we're 1-3. We sat here and said, you know what? They've only played 4 games. Are they just trying to keep Billy so that they don't lose any players in the portal? Are they going to come out against Texas and just absolutely falter and that's it and Billy's gone? Is that going to be his last game? Are we going to see potentially DJ Lagway in the portal and taking a redshirt year? We speculated. We thought it might be the case. We couldn't have been further from the truth. As a matter of fact, and again, we weren't predicting that. We were just speculating. But how about Florida showing up and playing their best game of the year? The offense finally clicked. You kind of wonder, why in the world does it take so long for Billy Napier to get the offense going? Last year, the narrative was that, all of a sudden an injury paves the way for DJ Lagway to play. Well, this year, that's not the case. You had DJ Lagway from week 1. Now, he did have an injury in the offseason. He didn't get to practice a lot with the team. Coach Saban said that might have played a big impact on it. He was absolutely correct. But Billy Napier at some point has got to realize we have to be ready to go on week 1. We don't get to take the first 4 weeks of the year to figure out how we do this. By the way, I still believe he's play calling. He's on the offensive side. So it all falls on him. That's a bold move as a head coach today. But they get the win in the swamp. They beat Texas. Texas, preseason number one. Penn State, preseason number two. A lot of noise about Steve Sarkisian and James Franklin right now. I see them as two separate coaches. Obviously, they are, literally. But a lot of people are throwing them into the same basket. The programs right now, absolutely. Preseason 1 and 2, outside the top 25. Pretty wild. Don't know the last time we've seen that or if we've seen that at all in college football history. But Steve Sarkisian's still got a lot to prove. I don't know what they're going to do, though. Do they bench Arch Manning? Is this entirely on him? Is he playing through an injury? Because that arm slot certainly looks weird at times. I am no quarterback guru, so I'm not the one to speak to that. But where does Texas go from here? Where does Florida go from here? Did that save Napier's job? Or is it just prolonging the inevitable for another week or two? Are they going to build off of that and somehow be a dark horse team that makes a run late in the year with already having 3 losses? Their backs are against the wall. They have no room for error, and they might already be too far gone. But I'm excited to see what this Florida team does. If they can stack together games like they did last week, it's going to be really fun. And we're going to see them probably upset another team or two in the SEC if they keep playing like that. As far as Texas, huge expectations heading into this year. 2 seasons in a row where they've been in the Final Four, but couldn't win their semifinal game to play in the national championship. A lot of the talk was, man, Quinn Ewers is good. Sark's loyal to him. But as soon as Arch Manning is our quarterback, we're going to take the next step. So far, that has not been the case. And I want to just say this. I feel bad for Arch Manning. If his last name wasn't Manning, he would have had nowhere near as much hype as this. Because his last name is Manning, everyone expects him to be like Peyton or Eli or Archie. Well, so far that hasn't been the case. We'll see if he can turn it around. But man, it's a tough spot for Texas. If you're Sark, you're kind of in a lose-lose spot. What do you do? Arch was supposed to be the chosen one, the 5-star, and it just hasn't worked out that way so far. Do they make a change? I'm very interested to see what Texas does. Do we find out more about Arch? Is something wrong? Is something off? I don't know. Well, we've talked a little bit about the Big Ten. We've talked a little bit about the Big 12. We've definitely covered the SEC, and now we have got to go to the ACC, where I believe College Game Day should have been in Tallahassee, Florida. Coach Corso was there. They honored him. Let me just say this right off the bat. I don't know if there's a better pregame entrance in all the country than FSU. And I've never even been there in person, but because of the access that they've given us on TV as of late, you get to see some of the pregame stuff. I mean, Clemson's certainly one of them where they run down the hill, and I've been blessed to be there for a game. A lot of other places with really cool traditions. I've been at an Auburn game where an eagle flies around the stadium. Unbelievably cool things happen across the country every single week for intros into the stadium. You're certainly going to have the bands. You're certainly going to have the chants, the cheers, the energy, night games, the lights. How about FSU sending out the Seminole? I mean, is that the coolest entrance in all of college football? Right now, I think it might be. And I hope to get there in person for a game one day. But the Seminole coming out there on the horse, and they all do the chops. Oh, oh, oh. I mean, I absolutely love it. Some of the greatness of college football. Man, I went back and forth on this game so much leading up to it. Because on one hand, Miami, I think they're the truth this year. I think that they're one of the standard bearers in the sport. They have upgraded significantly. Mario Cristobal's game management has gone up. They've got a veteran quarterback in Carson Beck paired with an offensive coordinator in Shannon Dawson that are really gelling. The trenches has been the key, though. The defense. They picked up the defensive coordinator from Minnesota. He has been phenomenal. He has been a revolution at Miami. That's a defense that's flying around the field, playing inspired football, stifling opponents, getting pressure on the quarterback, stopping the run. They look really good. Really good. Like one of the best teams in the country and appropriately ranked in the top 3. Absolutely. They look phenomenal. But in the back of my head, I go back to the last few years. Matter of fact, the last few decades of Miami football, but the last few years under Coach Cristobal. And this is one of those spots where they haven't been able to get it done. Yeah, they've been good at home. Yeah, they've squeaked by. They've had some tough wins. But at some point, Miami has found a way to drop one or two here when they couldn't, when they were favored. And they go on the road to an in-state rival, and they complete the trio. Statement win for Miami. They've beaten USF, they've beaten UF, and now they've beaten the Noles. Miami runs the state of Florida in college football this year. It's undeniable. Matter of fact, they might run the country. They are looking elite, like a very good football program. In the back of my head, I thought, this might be one of those spots based on years past where Miami may drop one. And I know the magic Gus Malzone, with his dual threat quarterback, Tommy Castellanos, they're going to be dialing it up. They're going to have some trickery. They're going to be moving the defense side to side, utilizing the entire field. Gus dials it up in big games. They're coming off a loss. They're going to be focused all week. They get the extra day since they played on Friday. I went back and forth. I didn't know where to go with this one. Man, it looked closer than it was. Miami dominated this game. I wanted to see better out of Florida State. I thought that they might be able to win this one. The final score was less than one score, but really Miami was up big in this one. One of those ones that deceives you when you look at the box score. You go, oh, that must have been a tight one. Really wasn't too tight. Miami held the lead the whole game, but Florida State showed fight. And let me be very clear about this. Florida State still has a lot to play for this year. They've got 2 losses in the ACC, which is a real bummer. But that non-conference win against Alabama is going to do them big favors if Alabama continues to look like a very good football team and continues to win. That's going to be a huge resume booster for Florida State. If they can find a way to go unscathed the rest of the year, which they certainly have their toughest games behind them, but obviously the next game is always the toughest one, would be the mentality. I'm looking at Florida State to do something. The problem with a quarterback like Tommy Castellanos is you're going to have really good weeks. You're going to have really explosive plays. You're going to have a lot of magic, but you're also going to have letdown weeks. And you're going to have some bad turnovers. And you're going to have some questionable decisions and some big plays for loss. So as much as you get the magic, you also get the tougher things with it sometimes. That's going to be the challenge for Florida State. Can he be consistent? Can the team be consistent? Do they mail it in for the rest of the year? Do they go, hey, we're on a little 2-game skid, but we still got a lot in front of us to play for? That's what I'm looking for out of FSU, and I hope that they can do it. One of the coolest things this week, and he got a lot of flack, was Jerry Neuheisel's father, Rick, on the CBS Sports panel for their halftime, pregame, and postgame show, just getting to be a dad and getting to watch his son do an incredible job and pull off the biggest upset of this year in UCLA. I absolutely loved it. I hope that you got to see some of those clips on socials. I think it's phenomenal. And for a lot of people that were sending hate on him, I mean, come on, man. If you're a Penn State hater for that, then man, let your talk be on the field. You kind of deserve that one. It never should have happened. I absolutely loved it. Brought some tears to my eyes. You just love seeing a father proud of his kid. So cool, man. So happy. Jerry Neuheisel gets carried onto the field again, just like he did as a player at UCLA. It's clear that guy lives and bleeds and breathes UCLA Bruins. So I am just so happy for him, so happy for UCLA. They needed it. They needed it big time. That was huge. So there you go. There's your recap from last week. Can't cover every game. Big shout out to Texas A&M getting it done over Mississippi State. We thought that one might be a better game. This week's slate is phenomenal. All right, don't go anywhere because this week's slate is huge. Last week's people slept on it. Don't sleep on this one. Let me just tell you real quick. You got a huge one out in Eugene, Oregon. Top 10 matchup. Both teams undefeated. The Indiana Hoosiers and Fernando Mendoza, one of my top 5 quarterbacks in the country, playing another one of my top 5 quarterbacks in the country, Dante Moore at Oregon. 2 of the best coaches in the sport right now. Let me make that very clear. Yeah, he's not young. Yeah, he's going to get you some serious Google me and crazy quotes, and he's got a lot of confidence. Kurt Cignetti is one of the best coaches in the sport right now. It's undeniable that he took a bottom of the barrel Big Ten program in Indiana and injected life and an expectancy to win, a level of compete that that program has not seen. Brought him to the playoffs in the first year. Oregon, Dan Lanning, first year in the Big Ten, dominate. Undefeated season in conference and out of conference, win the Big Ten in Indianapolis over Penn State. They're now 2-0 against Penn State since joining the Big Ten. One of those in Indianapolis, one of them in in State College. I almost said College Station. That'd be way off in Texas. Massive, massive matchups this weekend. That's going to be a big one. Oregon hosting Indiana. How about Missouri hosting Alabama at the noon slot? Wow. I told you the gauntlet that Alabama's going through right now. Two straight ranked wins. One on the road in Athens, one at home against Vanderbilt. Now they go back on the road to Columbia. They play Missouri, undefeated Missouri, by the way, somehow ranked lower than Alabama. But a lot of that because they haven't really had much of a test yet. Missouri kind of skating through unscathed so far, but boy, do they have a really good run game. And if we know anything, that's going to be a serious matchup to watch. Missouri's run game versus Alabama's run defense. Bo Prabula has been a phenomenal quarterback for them this year. Going to face a tough pass rush this week and a good secondary. Let's see what Missouri can do at home. By the way, I was at this game last year in Tuscaloosa. Alabama shut them out. Shut them out. They had an injury at quarterback. Drew Pine played a little bit. They brought the starters back in at the end of the game for a goal line stand to get the shutout. I promise you, Missouri has not forgotten about that. Plus, they had a bye week. So 2 weeks of prep after Alabama's coming off two tough matchups, and you have all the motivation in the world. Last year, this team shut us out. I'm telling you, Missouri is going to show up to play. That's going to be a dogfight. Don't just think, oh, because Alabama beat Georgia and they showed up 2 weeks in a row. No, man, they're going to have to stack a third really good week together to beat this Missouri team. And this Missouri team has all the motivation in the world. Hey, we're the undefeated team. Why are we ranked lower? Hey, we're the home team. Hey, last year they shut us out. And they've got a quarterback this year in Bo Prabula and a really good run game. That's going to be a dogfight. Ohio State plays at Illinois. Another noon slot game, the big noon game this week in the Big Ten. Very interesting matchup here. I personally think, and this might be a crazy take, I think Ohio State runs away with this one. I could be way off. They're going on the road. They're playing in Champaign. Illinois has a huge home win a few weeks ago against USC, coming off of a brutal loss to Indiana. Yes, the Indiana Hoosiers that we mentioned earlier. I think Ohio State gets in there. The way their defense is stifled this year. By the way, Luke Altmaier has been phenomenal this year. Outside of that Indiana game, he's been unbelievable. We didn't give him enough love last week. He tore it up. He's on a 2-week stretch now where he is throwing dots all over the field. Guy looks really good. So they're going to be prepared for that one. Don't make any mistakes about it. And this is a huge one for Illinois because they've already dropped one. If they want to stay in the Big Ten race and they want to stay in the playoff race, this is one of those games that they got to have. They got to have, or at least they hope they have. How is it that we've already talked about 3 games and we are just now getting to the Red River Shootout? It's because Texas has 2 losses. Let's be honest. The narrative around this one. So we'll see what happens with this Red River Shootout. It's going to be an absolute slugfest. Texas back against the wall. They're the 2-loss team in this one. Oklahoma comes in undefeated. And the question is, will John Napier play or not? Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm excited for that one. And that's a huge rivalry. One of the biggest in the sport. Going to be a phenomenal game. Hey, we got Florida trying to stack a second win against Texas A&M, a top 10 team in the country. Michigan traveling out west to LA to play at USC. South Carolina already with 2 losses, looking to get a big one at LSU. Georgia, the number 10 Bulldogs, playing at Auburn. Jordan Hare, you just don't know the Jordan Hare scare. That's a big rivalry game. And Auburn, also 2 losses. Backs against the wall. Need it. Gotta have it. BYU at Arizona, and we already mentioned Arizona State at Utah, amongst some other really good games. We got a really good slate. Now, some of the talk around college football that has been very interesting, and I'm very excited to talk about some of this, is one, South Carolina's schedule, but two, Alabama looking to do something that's only happened three times in the history of the SEC. Shout out to Cole Kublik for this one. They're looking to get a third straight ranked SEC win, 3 weeks in a row. They would become the fourth team in SEC history to do so. I don't think it's being talked about enough. You probably think because I root for the Tide, but because of South Carolina's slate, which let me give you South Carolina's slate, which is just absolutely absurd. As I mentioned, they're going to start off this week in Death Valley at number 11 LSU. And again, South Carolina already has two losses, no room for error. I looked at their schedule preseason and I said, they've got one of the toughest schedules in the country. I just don't see them taking the next step and becoming a playoff team. I thought they would regress a little. So far, it looks to be right. You never want to see that happen, but they've already played Vanderbilt and Missouri and Kentucky. They lost to Missouri, lost to Vandy. They've got number 11 LSU, number 6 Oklahoma, number 8 Alabama, number 4 Ole Miss, and number 5 Texas A&M. They get a bye between the Ole Miss and the Texas A&M. So for the next 4 weeks, 4 weeks straight, they've got four top 11 opponents in a row. LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Only 2 losses combined from those 4 teams. Pretty wild. Tough days for South Carolina. Tough slate ahead. But that's part of it, man. They've still got Clemson on that schedule. They've still got Texas A&M on that schedule. It's going to be really fun to watch some of these football games. I'm very excited for it. Man, this has been a really fun episode. A little briefer than usual. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had an incredible week 6. Week 7 is going to be awesome. Game day in Eugene, Oregon. Going to be absolutely electric. Hey, I'll close on a personal note. This weekend, got to do one of the really special thing. I was out in Seattle, out in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest, total opposite side of the country for me. Continental United States. I think I took the longest flight you can take. Maybe there's one that's a little further, but from Fort Lauderdale to Seattle, whew, felt like I should have been in Europe after how long that flight was, but was incredible. And got to see Mount Rainier, but was out there to celebrate a friend of the pod, Chris Gray, my Uncle Chris, as I know him. Go back. I'm going to link his show. I'm going to link the episode with him in the show notes. He did a special episode with us in 2023, our first year of the pod. Talked a little bit about the NFL, but talked mostly about his experience being recruited by Lou Holtz at Notre Dame, playing at Auburn and in the Iron Bowls. And he shared a little bit about his experience. I mean, this guy played with Dan Marino on the Dolphins, played for Coach Shula. And this past weekend, he was honored as a top 50 franchise player for the Seattle Seahawks. That's a huge honor, man. Top 50 players in the franchise's history. Got to be there for an all uniform game, both throwbacks, the Seahawks and the Bucks, and got to watch Ohio State wide receiver U show out. Emeka Ibuka went off. Jackson Smith and Jigba went off. Both had huge days. Multiple touchdowns for Ibuka, 1 touchdown for JSN. Absolute slugfest of a game and a walk-off kick win by the Bucks. But Chris Gray, best of the best, most humble guy out there. To get to be there and see him honored was really cool. We'll share on the socials. We got to meet Drew Lock and Jalen Milroe. Missouri and Alabama obviously squaring off this weekend. Got to get in a little roll tide with Millie. So it was a really special weekend. But just want to say congrats again to Chris Gray. Most humble dude ever, has been there for me in big moments of my life and always celebrated everyone else in his family and our family so well. So really special to get to be there and celebrate him. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, thank you to our sponsors, DuckBuck. Go to duckbuckco.com. Use code LCFP for 15% off. Thank you very much. Laner, signing off.